right, today I have Deborah Levine with us, and I want to make sure that I don't miss any of the details of her accolades to share with everyone today. She is an award-winning author. She has published 8 books, to include recently in 2016, The Liberator's Daughter and Religious Diversity in the Workplace. She is a blogger with the Huffington Post right here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. She founded the Women's Council on Diversity in 2001, which led her to WomenGroundBreakers as a local association of individuals and women, I'll say, that wanted to be affiliated with one another to further the causes for women. And in 2015, she decided that she would associate the group with Lean In and Sheryl Sandberg to make a more national impact with a local presence here in Chattanooga. So, Deborah, how did your interest in women's issues begin? I know you were a trailblazer and a leader, although you take that mantle on lightly, and I want to encourage you to wear it with more boldness. So share that story with us.
I have been involved in women's issues from a very early age, and going to Radcliffe College, which was the women's affiliated college with Harvard University, and I was there at a time when the two merged. And
so share with our listeners what year that was, if you're bold enough to do that.
I was a freshman at Harvard, Radcliffe, in 1966, and they were soon merged, and it was a challenge to both be part of Harvard and retain our own individuality as women on campus. And in the early days, when we were first allowed into the major library at Harvard, Widener Library, my friend and I, Carol Potter, who you know is the mother on 90210, we were sitting there and looking up at the graffiti on the wall which said, "Cliffies," that's us, "Go home."
Oh my.
Yes. And,
a welcoming committee.
Yes, indeed. And when she went to the bathroom, there were no ladies' rooms. So they had just crossed out men and written in ladies, and she went in. And apparently one gentleman did not look at the sign and went in and used the urinal, which was still there, before he noticed Carol was standing there, and then went sort of running out. And Carol ambled out later, and she said, "Not my problem if he doesn't read."
And you would think that students at Harvard would be able to do that.
There are certain things apparently that are hardwired in brains. And so it was a wonderful experience to us on the difficulties of our being there, of stepping up, of what women would have to overcome. And my work ever since has been part of that. I was part of one of the very first women's liberation marches down Fifth Avenue in New York City in, I think it was 1970. And just kept on going, creating women's groups as part of my work all along, including here in Chattanooga.
And I'm assuming that the reason why you wanted to be part of women's groups are to nurture women to step into their own leadership roles in the community, to reach their full potential for, I guess, from a career standpoint, and to be recognized for their contributions.
This is very true. Much of it had to do with careers. In the early days in New York City, when I worked in Manhattan, I was going into an employment agency, and there was a table for women and a table for men. And all the women had to take a typing test, and I informed the agency director that I prefer to sit with the executives, with the men, and they told me I could not. And so after that, I refused, and I made a fuss. They threatened to call the police on me, and so I did leave, and I went directly from there to the march. So I have an appreciation for how difficult it is for women to break into new fields. I have worked for the College of Engineering and Computer Science here in Chattanooga at UTC, and I understand a great deal about the issues of women in STEM. It feels like all over again.
And we continue to blaze trails. And we continue to blaze trails.
Yes, we do.
So what are your goals for the Women's Council on Diversity and Women Groundbreakers, that it became affiliated with Lean In? What sparked your interest there?
First of all, founding the Women's Council on Diversity in 2001 was an interesting experience. We had our first general meeting, the planning meeting, the day after 9/11. And so the idea of globalization was already within us, both the opportunities and the challenges. And what I wanted for our small southern city was to bring along people to be leaders in what was going to be Chattanooga, the global village. We were not quite there yet in 2001, but it wouldn't be long before many international companies would join us, and we would become a hub for a tremendous amount of change, both in industry and in demographics. So the Women's Council on Diversity was to anticipate that. We did educational programs, and I trained people to become leaders in what I could see was coming next. As we went along, we formalized that into a global leadership class, and I created and copyrighted a book that would be the textbook for not only the Women's Council on Diversity, but all of the cross-cultural workshops I would do since then.
Oh, awesome. And so what is it that sparked you specifically to look at affiliating with Lean In and Sheryl Sandberg's initiative?
Well, I was fascinated by what she was doing, coming from the STEM world for women. And I pulled up a very early video that she had made of a presentation she was doing, listening to it. Lo and behold, she started to refer to the stories that I just told you I personally experienced at Harvard and have written about. And I thought, she's telling them my stories. I think this is fate telling me where I'm supposed to be next to hook up and keep going. And so we did.
Oh, that's awesome. So what are your hopes for the group as a Lean In affiliate, and how did you choose the next leader to take the mantle?
The WomenGroundBreakers, which is the most recent name for the Women's Council on Diversity, has come to a point where we've done so much with education, with our storytelling series for Women's History Month, that it's time to morph into the next stage, which would be on the national scene. And I want for the group to participate in this national and international movement that Sheryl Sandberg has initiated and become part of the wider global village. I chose someone, you Denise, that had experience in working nationally and internationally with women's causes and groups, someone who has had a successful track record as an entrepreneur and knows how to continue creating and innovating, and someone who has had experience with the group, WomenGroundBreakers, to know who the individuals are and their history, and can fold that into what will come in the future, which I think is an extremely dynamic opportunity, not only for these women,
yes,
but for the city of Chattanooga to gain this kind of recognition and influence.
Well, I'm honored that you would recognize all of that from our conversations, and I can remember in the early years when you started actively looking at women and diversity in the workplace shortly in 2001. I think I had attended one of your early meetings when you first started the group and thought, wow, you know, this is really interesting that, you know, it would be here in Chattanooga. Having been born and raised in the area, and my parents loving to travel and being open to learning new things and meeting new people. My mother being from Buffalo, New York, and my dad from South Georgia. So I get the best of both worlds. And loving to travel with them and meet so many different people. And I think that passion for that has really cultivated what I've tried to do here at the Concierge Office Suites for businesses. And I always feel like we truly have a cultural diverse environment. We have some Hispanic speaking people that are bilingual. We have some not American Indians, but East Indian attorney that's represented here. So we kind of have this little melting pot in this 5,500 square feet here at the Concierge Office Suites, and it's interesting to see how that plays out and how their clients are, you know, the common ground that we share, yes, and then the differences that, you know, add a little spice to your life and break up the boredom of your homogenized American life, and seeing how all that plays out. And I'm honored that you tapped me on the shoulder to take over the WomenGroundBreakers group and be associated with the Lean In movement. I had seen Sheryl Sandberg's talk on TED and was totally fascinated by it. I felt like I had lived her life, minus giving birth to children factor, but being married and trying to juggle it all and make a positive impact in the community that I live and work. And I'm thrilled that we've had this chance, yes, to spearhead Lean In WomenGroundBreakers and make an impact in the world.
Well, I have great faith in you, and also feel that you have spent so much time and energy on furthering women in their careers and assisting them in whatever way you could, that this will just ramp up your efforts, and encourage even more women to become what they have inside them.
Yes.
We both know that many times women in particular are benefited by mentoring and by example and models, because they don't necessarily have them in their youth. And so off we go to make a difference. I will be traveling, speaking and writing and doing my work on a larger scale, but I will always be available to assist as needed. And
you'll be our guardian angel in social media.
Yes, I will, and I'd be delighted to have these women write themselves.
Yes.
Because I've found that this is one way in which you establish your professional persona, and be able to carry your message and your expertise to a broader audience. It has worked so well for me. I'd be happy to assist them too.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.